What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Accelerate Your Life podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mallory Marks, and we are back in the lovely podcast studio today. Hopefully this audio is better than a couple weeks ago. I was given the instructions to not touch the audio recorder. It's already set to where it needs to be. Guess what I did? I touched it last week. So this week, we're not touching it. So hopefully this is coming in crystal clear. But I'm joined today by, we've got a local guest, so I figured we'd come in and use the podcast studio again. And I'm really excited for this episode because you guys, I've shared a lot about my journey with competing in bodybuilding, but I transparently did it very amateurly, and I only did it for one season, and I really only did it through the lens of like, I just want to do this for myself. And I am really excited to get to pull back the curtain a little bit more with my own curiosity of what it's like to compete at an even higher level. So today we are joined by one of my dear friends, and also IFBB Bikini Pro, fellow fitness coach, fellow Austinite, Emily Pribula. Said it right.
Yes.
Okay. Yay, welcome, Emily. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited. And just so everyone knows, I am nervous. This is my first ever podcast. And I always have been so like, I'm not going to do a podcast. Like, I don't think I can do it. And somehow Mallory convinced me. So
you want to know how that somehow? Same reason. I said last week, I was like, I convinced Casey, you swindled her into it when you guys were drinking.
That's true.
And I was sitting there sober after our ski trip. And I was like, you're both coming on.
I know, one drink in. I'm like, let's go.
We're going. No, I'm actually really so honored that you let me be your first podcast. Because I know I'm sure you probably got asked a good bit.
I've been asked a few times.
Yeah, you were high up in the bodybuilding world. I know that you have just a lot of experience and things to share. So I get the exclusive. Yes. Although, I think you're going to love it. Because
I'm excited.
We're going to do a chat. And now you're going to want to do them all the time. But
I know, right?
I got her first.
I'm opening the door.
But yeah, funny, because I want to share a little bit about just like how we met, because I think it's kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
Because we met back in Raleigh,
Yes,
North Carolina.
back
I've
in North
actually,
Carolina.
known you. I think the only person I know longer is Kendall.
Okay.
And that's just because I followed her and she was my first business coach in like 2020.
That makes
but
sense.
I probably met you not long after I would have met her online.
Gosh, yeah, because I don't think I moved to Tampa until I was in Tampa for 3 years. I've been here, so yeah.
It was after COVID, like after the gyms reopened. But
yes.
It would have been 2020, I think.
Because I think we met at one of the gyms that was kind of open, but kind of not.
Which I was blanking on the name when I was writing.
Olympus.
God, I could kind of say Oscar.
Oscar.
I'm like, that's absolutely not right. But the O.
Close enough.
But yeah, met you there, and I remember, it's just funny, because like, I know we talked a couple times, and I know you remember.
Yes.
Casey does not remember talking to
I
me.
do remember talking to you.
Yeah, but it's just so, and I shared this when I interviewed her the other week, but it's just like so funny, because I look back at that time, and like, I definitely felt like such a small fish in a big, and I was just getting into the fitness world, and her was somebody I followed. I knew you were like, competitor, you looked amazing, and like, now that I know you were obviously like one of the sweetest people ever in the world.
Thank you.
You have that, like, you are intimidating. You can like present as like, she's a bad bitch. And,
when I'm in the gym, I'm just,
And so I was definitely like, I was scared of her, and like, I hope she likes me. I don't know. But then fast forward, like, you moved to Austin completely. I don't want to say unrelated, because we all really do run it in a small community, but like, it's just funny that transpired.
Yeah, so I was in Tampa for 3 years. So originally from North Carolina, moved to Tampa for grad school, and we can talk about that too, because it kind of has to do with the fitness and everything. But I was in Tampa for 3 years, and then me and my now fiance decided that we wanted to move. But we were like, okay, do we go back to North Carolina, or do we try somewhere different? And again, Casey kind of brought us out here. She was like, just come visit, come check it out. You'll fall in love with the friend group and everybody here. So we came, we visited it, of course, loved it, and then moved here a few months later. And now we've been here a year.
I know, it's crazy, it flies.
Yeah.
I remember the end of that weekend, you guys were like, yep, we'll be here back.
We'll be
back. So yeah, it's just been
cute.
awesome, and to see our friendship grow, and I am now excited that it has led you to your first podcast.
I know, I'm very excited to share everything.
Yeah. So anyway, a little bit of kind of what we're going to get into this episode. Like I said at the beginning, I really want to talk more about what it's like in the bodybuilding world, especially at a high level, because my audience has heard me share my experience a little bit, but again, it was so long ago. It was just, it's very, I think, different than yours, and so I'm just so super curious about it. But before we get into that, I do have one question, and I left this off my little list that I sent you because I wanted it to be just, whatever comes to mind first. Yeah. Super simple. Don't overthink it. I just love it. It's like a positive thing to start.
Okay.
So it's almost kind of like when people do like their peach in the pit, but we're just going to focus on like the positive. But just what is one little thing that you love about life right now?
One little thing that I love about life. Can I say that we're moving this weekend?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so excited to move and just be in a new space and be closer to all of our friends downtown. So I'm excited.
That is definitely that's it. Like, it's like a big one, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like something. Well, I know too. You guys haven't had the best. Like,
our apartment situation right now has not been great.
So
we are very excited to be somewhere new.
Quite a life upgrade for sure. And it's not that you're definitely not far from me, but it's gonna be nice to have you guys a little bit closer. Downtown.
Definitely closer.
Yay. And last week when I asked Casey too, I was like, all right, I guess I should share mine when I asked.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have your.
I know I never usually do, but and now I'm like, okay, I didn't even think ahead of time, but I feel like one thing I love about life right now, I honestly have been really enjoying a little bit of a more like introverted time period, which introverted, I'm using that word really lightly because I'm still not, but compared to how I usually am, I feel like I've often been just really wanting to stay busy and always need someone like to be around someone. Yeah. But, like recently I've been, I don't know, just enjoying being a homebody.
And that's nice. Totally fine too.
So
I feel like it's nice to have those periods of being super social, but also at the same time, like, okay, maybe I am going to be a little more isolated for a few weeks and just take a chill pill, and that always feels good too. Yeah. So I love that.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to get back to you and kind of dive into things here. So obviously, I know the meat of this is going to be talking about your bodybuilding career, but I know you are more than that. I know that you are more about that. So give us, and you shared a little bit of kind of where you're from, but give us the quick, like, Emily Pribula, elevator pitch, like, who you are, and then also anything that kind of, I mean, this, I guess, aligns with bodybuilding, but I always like to, whenever I have a guest who's going to be talking about a certain topic, I like the question of kind of like, what gives you the right? Yeah. And more of just the, what's your background?
Like credentials.
Yeah. And I definitely want you to mention what you went to school for your master's for.
Okay.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, perfect. So, very long story short, I've been competing since 2017. At this point now, I think I've done close to like 16 competitions, so it's been
How many seasons would that be?
Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 5 seasons, I believe. I could be wrong on that number. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, it's been a journey. So I did my first 4 shows in 2017, and then I did 4 more shows the following year in 2018. Then I took about 2 years off, and that was kind of, again, when COVID was picking up and gyms were closed, and honestly, transparently had a little bit of a rough time after 2018 with just like my health and stuff, and we can obviously dive into all of that. But took those 2 years off, competed again. I did 1 show in 2020, so that was, again, during COVID, and it was one of those things where shows were happening, but it was like, okay, the show is supposed to be next weekend, but then it gets pushed back a month because shows are getting canceled and people can't get to places, and so that was a rough season. So I only did my 1 show that season, and then I took about another 2 years off, and then 2022 was the year that I got my pro card. So I believe I did 3 shows that year, got my pro card, took a little bit of a break again after that. Can you tell I'm a fan of like long off seasons after a competition season, which I think is a very healthy way to do it. And then just recently this past year did my first run at the IFBB Pro stage. So I did 4 pro shows, which was so much fun. I loved every minute of it, and it's been so rewarding just from where I started back in 2017 to finally being able to step on the pro stage now. So that's kind of like the competition history side of things. As far as like credentials and like on that side of things, I did personal training in person for a while and then moved into like more of the online fitness coaching space. But that transition really happened when I went to grad school for my master's in physique enhancement. So I moved to Tampa, Florida to be in Dr. Bill Campbell's program. I was part of his research team for a short period of time, and that's where I feel like I truly was able to lean into more of like the science and like the evidence-based sort of things when it comes to dieting, learning how to read research, just like being able to be physically present in person and seeing the research and everything like that too. So I feel like that definitely taught me a lot alongside my own personal experience with competing.
See, I told you, there's probably going to be so many ways that I'm going to want this to go, even though, because now I'm like, so I just think that's such a fascinating degree. And I like want to like learn more and ask more, because I'm sure there's so much science that goes into that. Like I remember even just me and peak week and the control and manipulation of like sodium and potassium and these things that just go so far beyond just like protein and calories, right?
For sure, absolutely.
And there's just so much like science to it. And so it's fascinating. I think that's such a cool degree. Now, so I, as much as I want to deviate into that, I'm gonna like stay on track. I know what I want us to talk about. So we've obviously mentioned several times that you are like a pro bodybuilder. I think a lot of people listening might not really know what that means.
Okay,
like the separation between just, I just want to go do a competition versus what does it mean to go pro? So can you tell us a little bit about, and actually, before you do that, I was going to say, I remember when you won your pro card.
Oh, yeah.
This was after we had met. And I think we both followed each other on social media, and I remember seeing it being like, almost kind of like, I know her, she follows me. But we didn't really, we were friends again yet. But I remember having the sense of pride of like, she went to my gym.
I love that. That was definitely a very special moment.
Yeah.
For sure.
So what does that mean to win your pro card to be a pro bodybuilder?
So textbook definition of getting your pro card. So you start out on like the amateur level or like the regional level. And so there's like a couple, you can think about it like steps. So to be able to have the chance to get your pro card, you have to win first or second in your class at a regional level. And that qualifies you for a national show. And then each national show is different, but more or less you either have to win your class, or sometimes they'll do first and second place will also get their pro cards at the national level. And then there's so for bikini, for example, there's 8 height classes. So there's 8 people in each class that win their class and get their pro card. And then out of those 8 winners, there's one person that wins like the overall title. Like you are the number 1 in the show. And that happened to be me when I won my pro card. So that was like, not only did I just win like first place or second place in my class, like I won the entire,
which is already
show.
How many people are typically in a class? Do you know how many?
I think at my show, the smallest class had around like 20, 25, and the biggest class was like up to 40 people.
That's huge.
So it was a very big show.
So essentially, you won, because I know you'll be humble, but I'll let you know. You won first place of your let's say 30 in your class.
Yes.
Then you won first place of, it's only of those winners, but obviously it's the winners of everyone. So it really is first of like the hundreds that were there.
Yes. So that was mind blowing. And I remember that was such a special moment for me, because I was like, I just want to win my class. Yeah. Like I just want to win my class, get my pro card. And then I was the last height class to go. So I immediately got my pro card, and I'm very tall. I'm in the tallest height class. Got my pro card, and they're like, okay, turn around. You're going back out like for the overall title. And then I'm like, my brain is spinning. I just won my class. And then it just like happened. And I'm just like, stopping immediately. Like it was the wildest, like most special experience. But to reel it back in, so basically now that I have my pro card, I can only compete against other people who have also won their pro card and do pro shows. And kind of like the next level to the pro stage is like the Olympia. So to qualify for the Olympia, you have to win first place at a pro show. And then for the Olympia, you only compete against other people who have also won a pro show. So it's kind of like the championship of the
champions of champions. I can't remember. Has Austin placed to go to the Olympia?
He has not placed. So my fiance is a classic physique pro bodybuilder too, and so he's trying to win a pro show this year to be able to go to the Olympia. He got 3rd place last year.
Okay.
So he's actually
so close. Oh my god. Yeah, this is like the fittest couple in the world. Guys. So what was I gonna? To give everybody context too. This will knock me down several pegs. But when I competed only at that regional show. So regional, and I won. I think I was 2nd in my class. But those classes are, I probably had 15 in my class.
They tend to be smaller at the regional shows.
So I placed 2nd, which I was so happy with. Again, I was only doing it for myself. But keep in mind, I was in regional show. Emily won that regional show, then went to a national, still amateur show, won that, and that's how she got her pro card. And then now I'm getting pro. So it's
all the steps.
Yeah. Now, okay, this wasn't on my list, but I know this is definitely a question that I think people would be curious about if you don't mind sharing. I think people think, okay, pro bodybuilder, that's what she does for her career and how she makes money. Can you talk a little bit to that? Is there compensation with that, or does it come from more elsewhere? I know obviously you are an online coach, so.
Yeah. So I think actually it was one of your questions. It might have been, what does it mean, after you get your pro card? Do you essentially, make it at that point? And it is interesting because I feel like a lot of people have the like misconception that like when you win your pro card, you're just going to get like a big check in the mail and you're going to get all these sponsors and all this crazy stuff. But it's not necessarily the case. I actually do work with a lot of sponsors. I'm wearing one of them. I work with Dark Sport. That is like my clothing, gym clothing sponsor. I work with Eminent Nutrition. That's my nutrition sponsor. And then recently started working with Hummus Fit. So they're like my meal prep sponsor. I think you've actually tried a couple. Yep. And so the Dark Sport sponsor and a couple of the other ones that I've worked with previously, I actually started working with them prior to even getting my pro card. So I think a lot of people, again, have that thought that like once you get your pro card, things will start happening. But it definitely can happen before that time too. And I will say also that a lot of it has to do with like social media presence as well. As much as I hate to say like, I mean, I always say that I'm an athlete first before I'm like a social media influencer, but to be able to like work with sponsors and be able to get like paid for those kind of things, you do have to have a social media presence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've talked about this in a different like solo episode I did recently, but like I'm kind of honestly just trying to pivot a little bit more into like the influencing side of things because we've built this brand. I mean, we both have like built this following, built this personal brand because of our being an athlete or being an online fitness coach. And it's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with like leveraging that. And like,
no,
I think influencer has got this weird kind of connotation. It's like, no. But anyway, all that to say, yeah, I think that there is this big misconception that like bodybuilding is a job in itself, and it's really not. Like, you make no money from it comes from maybe the sponsorships that come with it, or like, but you're doing it truly because you love it and you want to do it, which is like, that's what I think is super cool about this sport. And like also just, I mean, it's because it's not fun all the time.
No, there's definitely points where it is very challenging, both physically and mentally too.
Yeah, you're doing it not for the money. It's just solely something that was like
you gotta love it.
You 100%. Now, what was the moment that you knew? Because let me back up. Has fitness always been a part of your life? Like before you got into competing, was it pretty? Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up doing all kinds of sports. I mean, I did try soccer for a while. That didn't go great, but I played. Yeah, really? Yeah. I can't see it.
You're tall, but
softball. Softball. I tried volleyball. That also did not go well, but softball was a main one for me. And then I like competitively rode horses also for like probably close to 12 years, 15 years. And then when I got into college, that was actually when I started to, or let me back up actually. I also ran track. See, I have so many things that I did. I'm like, I literally,
Thinking subs for a flag football team. Where were you at?
I used to be athletic. I'm definitely not.
Ashley was like, I don't think Emily's very athletic. I'm like, yes, she is. Like, she
maybe in a past life, but
bring it back up.
So it was like softball, horse riding, and then track was also a big one for me. And so transitioning from like high school into college, obviously like I stopped running track and was just doing horse riding at that point, and then fell in love with like all of the bodybuilding stuff. And as you know, bodybuilding can be an expensive sport, and horse riding is also an even more expensive sport. So kind of had to pick one at that point. So transitioned fully from like the horse riding into bodybuilding kind of at that time.
And I feel like I feel like it was a similar story for me. I feel like when you grow up an athlete and then I get to that point, especially as girls, we're like, we just typically lose we age out of it earlier because there's not a lot of maybe collegiate or definitely not post-collegiate like options. And I feel like if you're somebody who wants to continue with that, just something that drives
the goal to
work exactly. Like moving into weightlifting, whether or not you then take it competitively, is a really natural transition. So, what was the moment then that you knew you wanted to take it into bodybuilding and kind of take it to that next level? And let's start there, and then even to like, when did you realize within competing that you're like, oh, I want to like push this to go pro too?
Yeah.
More than, or just from the beginning, did you always know I'm trying to like see this through?
Definitely. Like I said, like I think I've always just been competitive with all of the sports and everything. And I actually got into weightlifting more so when I had an injury when I was running track. So I had like almost a stress fracture in my right shin, but more of just like very bad shin splints, like going through growing pains at the time, and went to a lot of different doctors, and they told me like, hey, I don't think running track is going to be for you at this time. And again, I'm also like horse riding at the same time. So I'm like doing all of these sports. And so not being able to run anymore was very like hard for me to wrap my head around at the time. So I think that is when like I started more so getting in the gym and weightlifting as like an outlet, like something to do. And then I do remember there was one day that some older gentleman in the gym came up to me and he goes like, hey, like not trying to be creepy or anything, but you look really good. Do you compete? And I was like, I didn't know females could compete. Like I didn't even know that like female bodybuilding was a thing or an option. So I literally went online and Googled in my area, like, and this was before like social media was big, anything like on Google.
So what, 2017 you said?
Yeah, 2017, like bodybuilding coach, like in Raleigh, North Carolina, and like found somebody. I had never gone and watched a show before, like nothing, but I hired this coach. He gave me a meal plan, all the things. And then I just did my first show and then absolutely fell in love with it. So, I think that's kind of how I just like started like getting my feet wet in the competition space. And then obviously fell in love with like watching my body change, fell in love with nutrition, fell in love with having something to work towards, a goal in the gym. And I don't know if there was a definitive moment where I was like, okay, now I'm going to go pro. It was kind of like I just started competing, and that was always at the back of my mind. Like, okay, I'm working towards the next step, whatever that may be.
Did you know, like, or pretty early on that you're like, I can be competitive in this? Because, like, I'm just going to be honest, I knew early on, I'm like, I'm doing this for me. I know I'm not going to be competitive. I'm not trying to ever really go pro, but do you feel like you were kind of like, I can do this?
I think, like I was always very confident in my own work ethic and in my competitive background that I was like, okay, I'm going to put my mind to this and give it the best shot that I can, and we'll see how things go.
I wonder where that man is now. He doesn't even know when
he
started.
Not at all.
I have to I was already thinking about competing, but I just was like very imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know if I could do it. And I remember there was this girl it was the Crunch Fitness in Raleigh.
Okay.
In the Cameron Village one.
Yeah.
And there was this girl, I'd seen her all the time, and I knew she had to have been a competitor. Like, she looked so good. And one day in the locker room, she came up to me and she was like, do you compete? You look so good. And I was like, yeah. I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'm doing it.
Done. Yeah.
So,
it's all about confirmation.
What are some misconceptions, if any, that about specifically, I'd say more so going pro, that you feel like maybe people have? I think we kind of already. I mean, I'm sure one is the financial side.
Touched on like the finances a little bit, and just the misconception of like once you go pro, everything's going to be like handed to you, or that like you don't necessarily have to like work as hard anymore. But it's definitely like putting in the work with the sponsors, and even like in the gym and stuff too. Like the pro stage is so much more competitive even than the amateur or the regional level. So I'm always still like training hard, like being very dialed in on my meals and my protein and everything like that, like making sure I always kind of am continuing to work towards the next goal and the improvements in my physique and everything like that. So the work really never stops.
I mean, I would be shocked if people think that, because like, I mean, if you think about it, it's like, well, now you're going against even more competitive people, of course.
And it even kind of stretches to like an international level at that point, I would say.
Crazy. And I know obviously like the posing routines and the whole just time around stage 2 gets longer, and I feel like there's more you have to kind of prepare for, right?
That was one of
what surprised you? That surprised you. You knew that was going to be
one of the hardest things for me. Again, is I am so bad at walking in these like 4.5, 5 inch heels. So like going and having to do like a full 60 second, 90 second routine in these like crazy high heels, like you have to always practice. Like even in your off season, it's not like, oh, I'm just going to practice and run through my posing routine like when I'm close to the show. Like no, you have to keep working at it always. At least a few times a week.
Even in the off season?
Even in the off season. I have to. Like I guess for some people it's
you should. I mean, you should.
Everybody should.
It's hard. It's like one of those things where it's like, I feel like it's just hard to discipline yourself too.
Yes. So, and again, like when you're not stage lean in your off season, it is kind of hard sometimes to like get in front of the mirror and like, okay, I'm gonna do this, but
but just gotta keep that like muscle mind connection. Like if I try to run my like conditioning right now, I like have to really think about it. I'm like, wait, what happened? You know, because you're just not in it.
You kind of have to do it until you don't think about it anymore.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I know you're in off season right now, which I know is coming to a close. But walk us through when you are in prep, and I know all of them might look different, so it can be more of a high-level overview. But what does a typical day of prep look like? And I want to know about what does food look like, what does cardio look like, what does posing, how much time are you spending on that? Yeah, what's a typical day look like?
Yeah, so I would say normally I check in on prep with my coach like once or twice a week. So let's just pretend that it's a check-in day. So wake up, weigh myself, take my check-in photos, run through my routine. And then at that point, I'll go and do my fasted cardio. Typically, I'll have cardio like fasted in the morning always, but closer to the show. Sometimes it will be split into like 2 cardio sessions just because the amount of cardio is greater.
What's the highest amount you've gotten?
Highest amount I've gotten to was 2 hours per day towards the end of the
month. Are we talking incline tread?
I am a big fan of the incline treadmill. I don't love the Stairmaster purely because it is so fatiguing for your legs, and it is tough. It is very tough. So I'm a big incline treadmill fan.
That was my method.
I mean, not like just like a lot of incline. Sure. Like I'm not walking casually. Like I'm busting my ass.
Yes,
I can.
No, you can cuss out here. Yes,
but I am going at it. But so fasted cardio. Typically go back upstairs, and again, this is where it's so nice to have an apartment gym versus like driving to the gym, doing cardio, driving back home. So I'll usually just go down, do my cardio in the apartment gym, go back upstairs, have meal 1. Typically, depending on where I am, like in my prep, it's either like oatmeal, protein powder, peanut butter, egg whites, like maybe some eggs, like all very basic, clean, whole foods. Normally after that, I will go on a little walk and get most of my steps in. Typically, my step goal on prep is anywhere from like 10 to 12K.
Is that including or excluding?
It excludes cardio. So I'm walking a lot. I'm probably walking closer to like 16 to 20,000 steps a day with cardio. Yeah. So I am getting all my steps in. So morning walk, come back, and then I'll eat my pre-workout meal, which is usually like a quick carb source, like maybe rice or cream of rice, and a protein source, like some chicken and rice, typical bodybuilder meal. Do that, go hit my workout at the gym. Usually I'll practice posing after my workout and just kind of take some more check-in photos. Post-workout meal is typically like protein shake, or again, like more chicken, more rice, quick carb source, protein source. Then I will usually go back home, shower, and then sometimes I'll go on a short walk then. Usually that's like my work block at that point, like get some client work done, meal prep, do whatever I need, run errands at that point. And then I'll typically do like an afternoon walk as my bigger walk.
Lots of walks. You're not going to say this out loud. I'm sure walking all up.
And then I'll have my last meal of the night, and then kind of just like do my bedtime routine, wind down, make sure that I'm not on my phone close to bed if I can, just because it makes it hard to fall asleep, and then literally sleep, wake up the next morning, and then it's all on repeat.
Yeah, that's definitely something about prep is it is Groundhog Day.
Yes.
Over and over. And one thing I want to point out too is if you're listening to that and you're like, so where do you like work?
Yeah.
It is a full-time job. Like it is getting in the cardio, getting the meals prepared, like getting in your steps, getting in your training. Like,
and I mean, I'll be on all of these walks and stuff too, like taking client calls, doing check-ins on my phone. Like it's definitely a lot of multitasking too.
But no, I think back to it and I'm like, man, because like, you know, whatever stage of life you're in, this is kind of a little tangent, but I feel like no matter what's going on, we always kind of feel busy, right?
Yes.
But I think back, like, so all I'd say, like, now I'll have days where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how to get everything done. And I think back to when I was in prep too. Yeah. And I'm like, how was I
doing?
Like, all of it. Yeah. And with, like, no energy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm hungry, I'm tired, but we're going. Yeah. Off pure adrenaline.
Obviously, a lot of that, like what you just said, the actual specifics will change, whether you're early in prep, late in prep, whatnot. I did mention that, like, cardio can get, let's say, like, okay, let's start cardio.
Okay.
You eventually can get upward to 2 hours a day. Yeah. Where do you typically start when you go?
Typically, starting cardio, I mean, truly anywhere from like 20 to 25 minutes. So it does start pretty low, and then it will ramp up.
And that's probably not even every day, or is that every day?
Sometimes every day. Like I've had preps where it does start off like cardio every day, but sometimes I've had other preps where it's like 3 days of cardio, 1 day off. 3 days of cardio, 1 day off. So it really just depends on the prep and where I'm at too.
And one thing that just coming to mind when you say this that I like to always point out when this opportunity presents itself is I think it's such a good example of there's not a one perfect way or answer. And obviously we're talking in an extreme, but even for just regular like fat loss, dieting, like I think people get so fixated on what is the exact strategy that's and it's like you could approach it in 3 days on, 1 day off. You could have with more time.
Oh my gosh.
You could like there's just so many ways. So anyway, okay, nutrition wise, where do you typically start? Actually, where do you typically sit? Do you know historically in your maintenance season?
Yeah, so maintenance season typically anywhere from like 23 to 2,500 calories is my maintenance.
Pretty solid. We love that. And then if you're comfortable kind of sharing these, where do you typically start prep and where's I know it can always change, but where's maybe the lowest that you've had to take it?
So typically like to start with a pretty like aggressive pull. So normally starting prep, it's again, depending on where I'm at in the off season, like it can start off anywhere from like 1,800 to 2,000 calories. The lowest that I got this past prep, and again, this is something that I like to kind of share with everyone too, because the more muscle that I think you have to, obviously the more calories that you burn at rest. So this past prep, the lowest my calories got were around like 1,200 calories. And that is, again, it is very low. But for me, like that was the highest that they have stayed in a prep too. Okay. And I say 1,200 and it's not like every day was 1,200. Like I definitely had refeeds throughout that. So the overall average week to week might have been higher than 1,200, but the lowest day did get down to like 1,200 calories. But let's say back in like 2017, 2018, when I was starting out, like I was digging out, there was one prep, like 800, 900 calories a day, which personally, like I think is too low. And my coach at the time could have done things to prevent that. But I mean, for probably 2 week, 3 week span, it was like 800, 900 calories. Yeah. It was scary low.
Yeah. My lowest was 1,200, which honestly for being like amateur, not really having honestly that much muscle mass. Like, I feel like I had a easy prep, relatively easy in terms of like my cardio. I think only got to an hour a day max. And that was every day for only the 3 weeks in between my two shows, 1,200 calories. So honestly, comparatively to like what I know of friends, not that bad. But it's still bad.
And again, it is so relative, individual to every person. I mean, I know there are pro girls now that do have to still dig that load for a short amount of time to just get that last little bit of like fat loss off. And then there's other girls that are like, I'm eating 400 carbs still at 2 weeks out. So it's just so individual.
Which we're definitely, I'm going to ask in a little bit. I want to talk more about the like health perspective of all of this.
Yes.
But just touch on briefly, like I think also maybe a misconception people have is just how strict you really have to be for these 4 months, 5 months, like how strict is it really?
Oh, I mean, personally, like, I do not miss a meal. Like, I am down to the gram, like, 100 grams of rice.
Extra blueberry? Nope.
No, literally. Like, I'm, like, and again, not everyone's that strict, but especially, like, with myself and having that very, like, competitive, like, to have the competitive edge that I want, like, I'm gonna make sure that I am checking all of the boxes. I'm doing my cardio with intensity. I'm not just on the treadmill like, okay, I've done 20 minutes. Like I am.
And it's not, you don't hit that stop button at 19:59.
No. Correct. Yeah. And again, like that can be hard for people to wrap their head around, like, how are you so on top of it, dialed in for, you know, X amount of time. But I like to tell people it is just that. It is a very temporary amount of time where you just have to put your head down, put in the work and grind. And like, it is one of the most rewarding things that you can do if you do check all the boxes.
Yes. And I want to echo, because I think it's a hard thing to wrap your mind around too, because especially like, I know you coach lifestyle people.
Yes.
And it's like the opposite of honestly what
it is,
we teach them to. We're like, don't stress about the extra blueberry.
Yes, like flexibility, like teaching flexibility versus
is a different piece. Like it is an extreme sport. Like you are choosing to go compete at the highest level. And as far as I can talk to the like, how do you do it? Because I even think like I am two separate people. If you held a gun to my head now and said, grab it, shoot me. But like back then, like you just do it because you love it
and you love it,
and you're like, I am just having like fun.
Yes.
I'm having fun.
You're like, okay, I am excited to go like challenge myself with this cardio. I'm excited to like hit all my meals like exactly as they're supposed to be. It is truly one of those sports where it is so extreme. You have to love it to be able to get there.
Now, how does your off-season lifestyle compare? Because, I mean, I feel like watching, like, knowing you as a friend and getting to live an off-season life with you, I actually feel like, I don't know a lot about the competitors. I think you do great with balance and like have are able to live very normally. Would you say? I mean, talked a little bit about the comparison between lifestyle and prep for you, and is how you approach it? Would you say normal?
Yes, and again, like this is something that I have had to work towards since the very beginning. Like I definitely used to have a very bad relationship with food. I was very scared not to track my macros exactly to the gram in my off season, or afraid to have a free meal. Like it has been something that I've definitely had to like really just sit down and like be with myself and think through like, okay, what does this look like? Like do I want this to look like for an off season? And I can confidently say that this off season now, this past year, has been the best I've ever had as far as incorporating the flexibility and being able to have free meals, but still work towards my goals and not have anxiety or not stress about it. So again, like in the past, I was just as, I guess, like strict in my off season. Like I have to hit my macro goal. I have to do calories. I have to do this. And now I'm like, okay, as long as I'm hitting my protein goals and like 90% of the time, like very on track with everything, I can have a free meal with my friends, or I can go have a drink or two and not be so stressed about it and have this feeling of like, I just threw everything in the garbage.
Totally. Yeah, and I know I haven't like been around you as much in maybe the other off seasons, but I just feel like you've been living your life. And I'm guessing part of that too is just like now being in Austin.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
We do so much.
Have enough friends.
Yeah, and there's people to do things with and all of that. But I think you've also made comments too of like this is kind of the best you've actually physically felt and looked to.
Yes, absolutely. And I do attribute a lot of that to being able to, for the first time, like listen to my body and trust my body and trust my intuition. Like I've been tracking my macros and my meals religiously since 2017. So I'm like, okay, I know about how much protein I need to be eating each day and that kind of thing. Like if you're new to competing or new to like just fitness in general, I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, just go and like guesstimate it. Like I definitely put in the work of learning everything first to be able now to have the flexibility that I do in my off season.
I also think it's important to acknowledge too, like you have been training like this for going on
like 6, 9, I don't even know, probably longer than 6 years.
Almost 10 years. Anyway, math, we're not great.
I know.
But you have all that to say, like, you have built your physique. You, like, obviously you're still trying to, but for the most part, like, you've built your physique.
Like, the foundation has been, like,
whereas, like, in a lot of early off seasons, that's when you are doing it. So, like, you have to kind of be dialed in, even if you are eating in a surplus, like, you have to make sure you are to build. Like, you've already done a lot of that, so it's kind of, I think, put you in this position where you can have a lot more flexibility.
For sure. I think you're spot on with that. And that actually reminded me, too. I think one of the earlier questions was, like, what is one of the misconceptions about going pro?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think, too, that, like, not necessarily pro, but, like, the difference between, like, being in a competition season versus an off season, a lot of people have the misconception that like you don't train as hard or you're again like not trying to hit your protein or like not following a meal plan, like whatever it might be. I think people think that like, okay, it's off season, it's just whatever, you can kind of slack off now, and that's not necessarily the case. I would say off season, especially if you are a newer competitor, is even more essential than prep itself, because that's the time where you're building muscle, you're trying to make the improvements in your physique, you're trying to get healthy again if you had a very tough prep, you know, things like that.
100%. What are some, again, you've done a great job, I think, in the off season, but especially like in prep, what are some of like the unseen sacrifices that are probably pretty obvious, but you know, I'm sure social life takes a little bit of a hit, like anything else, and how do you navigate that?
I mean, definitely like, again, with my fiance, like we have done preps together, we've done preps separately, like we both have to have an understanding of like we're both hangry and tired, and if neither of us are going to speak to each other today, then that's fine, but we're both going through it. So I would say like personal relationships, and even sometimes with friends, like if everyone's getting together to do this or that and I'm like, hey guys, like I'm exhausted, I'm just going to sit this one out, like old me would have been like, okay, I'm never going to get invited to anything, or they're going to take it personally, where it's like I think having a solid support group and friends that understand like the goal that you're trying to work towards too is really important too. But again, like I always say, like as far as like sacrifices, like you don't have to not go to a dinner just because all your friends are at dinner. Like, I will sit there and bring my meal prep with me. And
I know Austin had this.
Austin did it last weekend. Yeah. Like, you don't have to necessarily give up anything and everything.
I think that's a great mindset. Like, you don't have to do anything.
Yes.
It's like, first of all, you're choosing to go into this so you know you're going to make sacrifices. And there's still other ways you can, like, be in those situations. And because when you moved here, you guys moved here in what,
May?
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys were in prep.
Yeah, we were on prep.
Yeah. Until like, I was after my birthday, like until August.
Until I think it was August was my last show. Yeah, you're right.
Like first 4 months. And I know there was probably that aspect of like, all right, I just moved here, we want to like, but we saw you a ton. You guys were like, still coming to things and going on walks and like coming to meals and sitting there and whatnot. And like, I think you guys did a great job.
And I think it's one of those things where you just kind of have to gauge how you're feeling, and you're allowed to be like, you can pick and choose what social events and what you want to do and that kind of thing.
Okay. I do want to touch on this because I feel like this is something that, people, when we go back to the misconception side of things as far as bodybuilding and especially at a high level is the usage of PEDs, steroids, all that stuff. So I know you said you're an open book, and at this point in your career, you do utilize some. So I don't know if you want to share like what that looks like, but I'm definitely curious of like, at what point in your bodybuilding career did you decide you wanted to include those? For sure. What's the reasoning why you personally did, and maybe just why people did in general?
Yep. So my first two competitions. So my first two competition seasons, 2017 and 2018, I competed naturally. I actually did do my first national show in 2018, and I got dead last at that point.
So but you did win your regional, which is
I think I got a second. Okay, my regional. Yeah, so that qualified me. Again, I wasn't in a place where I was competitive enough to do nationals, but I was with a coach who was like, just go ahead and do it. And I shouldn't have, but I did. And I think placing poorly at that show, again, like I said, there wasn't like a moment where I knew I wanted to go pro, but I knew I wanted to continue to be competitive. And I think placing poorly at that show, I was like, okay, what do I need to do to take it to the next level? And I want to preface this by saying, like, PEDs are not a necessity if you want to go pro, if you want to compete in bodybuilding. I know plenty of girls that do compete naturally still. I'm not someone who's, like, going to tell you or any of my own clients that you have to take X, Y, or Z. It is a very personal decision, and there's a lot of ways, if you do decide to make that decision, to do it correctly versus incorrectly. And again, that comes down to like a trusted source, like making sure you're testing the actual stuff that you're taking. So you're not taking something that says it's this, but it's actually this. Being on top of blood work and health supplements. And again, having that foundational piece already set in place. So I felt like after 2 years of competing, I had my foundation set as far as like my training, my nutrition, everything along that line, along those lines. So at that point, I did do my first like Anavar cycle. At that point, I started off just with that, nothing.
That's not like the minor, like the intro.
It is like the intro PED.
Like I'm blanking on the word I want to use. But
like more mild.
Yeah.
Of course, like no PEDs are considered safe. Like there is always a risk with everything, but some of them have like less of a risk for viralization and other things than others. But I did do that at that point, and then that was kind of what started my journey with PEDs. And again, like took that, ran it, and I think that was truly all I ran up until I got my pro card. The off season before I got my pro card. That off season before I competed in 2020, I did dabble in like Primobolan, which is an injectable steroid, and then Anavar is an oral steroid. So at that point, I started to experiment with more things, again, under the guidance of a coach, getting regular blood work, checking all of the foundational boxes. And I noticed, again, like a lot of improvements in my own physique. But another misconception, too, is like people think you can just take this compound and magic.
Yeah.
No, it's like, again, I was still being so 110% on my nutrition, on my training. And so that was just a thing that, for me, supplemented what I was already doing. And that was a step that I wanted to take and was comfortable personally taking it to get my physique to that next level. And then since then have done other cycles like in season, off season, just to try to grow like specific parts of my body that I'm like trying to grow my shoulders or my glutes. So I've done like an off season cycle of like Primobolan to grow, and then I will make sure I'm healthy, come off everything, and then on prep, like potentially go back on another cycle.
I have like so many questions. It's so fascinating to me, but
yes.
It's actually one thing. It's interesting to me that you said that you feel like you can be competitive, because I feel like just from what I've heard and seen, it's changed a lot. I think maybe 10 years ago, but like I feel I was under more the impression that like just this day and age, it is very hard to be competitive.
It is very hard,
especially at like the national level.
I do know a few girls that are completely natural and they look great.
But
again, they are genetic freaks. And me personally, like I would not say that I am a genetic freak. Like I made the choice to take things to get me to that next level.
Which like also I think this is a great time to just interject that. Yes. And then I'll have your pictures on like our YouTube cover.
Oh my God, I love it.
But like Emily is like, you are like amazing, stunning, like lean toned. Like I think many people would look at you and be like, I want her body. And I want to just like emphasize though that she even has to take these performance enhancing drugs to get there. So when women say things like, I'm afraid of getting bulky.
Yeah.
It's just
that is a good point too.
Difficult.
You're like, if only you guys knew.
Yeah, it's like it's just added stuff that is going. Now I was gonna ask like, what is something maybe you wish that people knew? And the first thing that comes to mind, and I remember my eyes really being open to the fact that it doesn't change the effort that has to be put in at all. Like it's again, it's enhancing like what you're doing and maybe the outcome of the signal. You still have to work really hard to set your body in the gym and with nutrition. Is there any other misconceptions or things that you wish people understood about?
I mean, I think that's obviously the biggest one is like you still have to do the work every day and check all the boxes, and it's just going to add to what you're already doing at that point. I mean, just like PSA to everyone, because I've mentioned it a few times, like I'm so big on blood work and just doing it the right way too. Like if you are going to choose to take that step, like just make sure you're doing it properly, you know?
Are there any, like, what are the, I guess, major potential downsides, and why do they get such a maybe bad rap beyond just the, I don't know, stigma, but like, what are the actual safety concerns?
And again, like a lot of it for females too is virilization. So starting to develop male attributes.
So can I have a definition, please?
Yeah, for sure. So that it can be things like hair growth, like the voice deepening and things like that over time. And a lot of it too, like, again, anytime that you take a PED, there's the risk for that to happen no matter what. But a lot of girls, and myself personally, I've seen it happen more when you run too much for too long. So keeping your cycle short, running the smallest amount or dose that you need to see changes or see the positive side effects that you want to see, I think is key, versus just trying to be like, okay, I'm going to take this at this amount and just, like take as much as I can for 15 plus weeks. Like that's where you're going to start to run into problems. So again, being very strategic with how much you're running and how long you're running it for, and being very intentional also about the time between cycles and getting healthy and making sure everything is in check, I think is really important.
And is there truth to this? Because I don't remember when I heard this, but it made sense to me. But like when you compete naturally, especially as women, like our bodies and our hormones especially are very like quick to react to like low calorie, right?
Correct.
Or like our thyroid, it's gonna more than males, because when you think about us on an evolutionary level, like
essential body fat.
Like we are meant to create life. So like when body fat's getting super low, when calories are getting super low, like things begin to downregulate. We're not the same way, because it's like we can't get pregnant, anyway. So I feel like I competed naturally, and I feel like, it obviously wrecked me. And I've heard that maybe a pro of some of these performance enhancing drugs is they almost like protect your thyroid a little bit more. Is there truth to that?
There would be. So I have also taken like thyroid medication, so T3, but it's one of those things, and T3 is a very heavily abused like medication. It's a PED technically. It's not like a steroid. So I think people also classify them in the same
That's probably what
thing.
That makes sense.
Like performance enhancing drug is technically different than steroids, but steroids are PEDs. So they fall under that umbrella. But thyroid medication, a lot of competitors will take it when they are dieting because, again, your thyroid downregulates. So if you take a small like therapeutic dose just to bring your downregulated thyroid back to a normal, healthy baseline, that's what a lot of people will do, and that can continue to aid in fat loss. It's when people start to take too much or more than a healthy amount to get you back to baseline that you can run into permanent damage or like long-term thyroid issues.
Yeah, body's normal feedback. But, okay, that definitely must have been what I'm thinking of. And I remember it making sense. Like, okay, there's some definite like pros when done correctly of almost like protection. And
and again, like with Anavar, like originally I think it was made for, I don't know if it was like AIDS patients to help them preserve muscle mass when they're sick. And again, like if you're dieting, your body does start to break down muscle as well. So taking Anavar helps your body to hold on to that muscle mass while you're dieting. So there are like the benefits that come from it too.
Fascinating. Okay, this kind of leads into one of my last like big questions I was going to touch on is obviously I think a big takeaway I'm sure you agree with me and like what we would echo it is like competing in and of itself not healthy.
Yeah.
Like it's just it is an extreme sport. It is taking our body to limits that it's not necessarily meant to. So what's kind of your perspective on the balance between competing and doing this because, you know, this is what I love to do and I want to push myself to this and like staying healthy and like how do you kind of mentally deal with that trade-off and what's kind of your take there?
Yeah, so again, mentally it can be very tough, especially when you go from being stage lean to an off season again. And when you're getting ready for a show, you're looking at yourself in the mirror like every day, like almost obsessing over this very lean version of yourself. And so when you go from that back to a quote unquote like healthier version of yourself in an off season, like I know a lot of other women and myself too, like in the past, like struggle seeing yourself put the weight back on and like it can be very mentally tough. But I think I like to look at it in the perspective of, again, like seasons. Like when I'm lean, when I'm getting ready for a show or a competition, like this is my season to be lean, and being that lean, is not healthy. Like it is very unhealthy for a very temporary period of time. And then when I'm in my off season, like I'm getting back to a healthy, normal body fat percentage. And truly, like I do love, like obviously competing and being lean for that short amount of time, but I love, like have such a love for the off season and being able to go into the gym and like feel good and have energy for like day-to-day activities where in prep, like I don't necessarily feel the best and I'm tired and I'm hangry all the time. So again, like I love it and I love competing and I love being able to challenge myself for a short temporary amount of time and then have my other season where I'm like, okay, I feel good again. Like I can have all this energy and still continue to like live my life.
Yeah, totally. And I think like, again, knowing you, I've said this a lot, but I am really like proud of you and also in awe of just a lot of the ways that you like go about competing because I think you just have such a great mindset. I've just watched you be able to, I feel like, integrate into the prep side of things and then into the lifestyle side of things so well and just like have such a good balance.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And just being around like other people in the world prior, I definitely don't think that that's always the case.
And again, I think it takes so much practice and so much like truly like dedication to like, okay, like I know people say like they do, what is it, like the vision, I'm blanking on the word, not vision board, but like, I sometimes don't think of the name. Shit.
That's good. Come back to it.
Not like future, like where you're in
future pacing?
Kind of.
Future self, highest self.
Maybe.
Visualization.
Visualization.
There you go.
That's what it was. Okay, cut that last part out.
No, like it's
but a lot of people will do like visualization on like what they want the off season to look like what they want the prep to look like. And I think like being very clear on what you want that to look like and then making sure you are doing everything to align with that vision is important too.
Okay. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to give advice. If there's anybody listening that like thinks they want to compete.
Yes.
Well, so like, that's such a big statement. But yeah, what are maybe 1 to 2 things?
Okay, 1 to 2 things. If you've never competed before, again, it is such a rewarding process. It is maybe one of the hardest things that you'll ever do, but it is so rewarding. And I think it's important to remember that when you're going through it, like it is just a short period of time that you can put your head down, work hard, be hungry, be tired, do whatever you need to do to accomplish the goal. And then you have your whole life ahead of you if you decide to do it again or if you decide not to do it again. That's up to you. But a piece of advice that I would give to anyone who's never competed and like wants to, hire a coach. Number one, do your research. Make sure that you
do your research.
Yes, have a coach who is well versed also in, if you're a female, like hormone health.
Yeah.
That can be very important. There's a lot of coaches out there that are not well versed in female hormones and hormone health, and that is where also you can run into problems after the show if you're not with someone who understands the female body. But hire a trusted coach and just be open to the process.
Yeah.
Like we talked about earlier, everyone's body is different and it's individual. So some people might have to push down to like the very low calories, or someone else might be dieting on higher calories and no cardio their whole prep. So don't compare yourself to other people that you see going through prep. Just take your prep for what it is and just take things day by day and be open and just excited about the process.
I would echo all of that. I talked about this on a podcast I was a guest on recently, but I did so much research and I'm like so heavy on that.
Yeah.
Just so many people, like they see the stage. Yes. I want to do that. And it's like, that's the one day of the 6 months.
Correct.
So it's like really understanding everything that goes into it for sure.
Definitely do your research and ask questions too. Like if you have people that you look up to or friends that you know who have competed, like just ask all the questions. And I'm so big as a coach myself and like having as an athlete working with other coaches, like ask your coach questions. Yeah. If your coach gets defensive and they don't want to answer your questions,
run.
Get a new coach.
100%. Yeah. 100%. All right, we're gonna end with a little rapid fire.
Okay,
I'm
ready.
5, unless I add any at the end of my brain. But all right, favorite muscle group to train?
Shoulders.
I knew you were. Least favorite part about prep?
Cardio.
Okay.
Favorite
part about prep? I didn't have that on there.
Favorite part about prep? I would say just the challenge of it. The challenge. For sure.
One supplement you'd die for?
One supplement I would die for? Protein powder.
An easy choice.
That was an easy one.
What's your biggest gym pet peeve?
Biggest gym pet peeve, I would say, is probably people just on their phones.
Sitting
machine. Yeah. And I feel so bad. I'm like, I have to walk up and be like, hey, how many more sets do you have left? And they're like, oh, I'm just getting started. I'm like, you've been sitting on your phone for 10 minutes.
Like, I won't lie, I'll sit there, but like in my rest period.
Yes,
but it's like when you know when someone's intentionally taking, if it's more than 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like, be on your phone a minute, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting there for like 5 minutes on, let's.
I'm with you. The food you cannot wait to eat the second that prep is over.
Oh, I feel like you know what I'm going to say.
Sushi machine. Okay, that's on. When do you start your next prep?
I'm going to start the second week of June, so soon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I need to get some sushi before then.
Any other random fires? What's your favorite adult drink?
Probably either a margarita or a espresso martini.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
Of course. I could have answered honestly all those questions for you.
You know me so well.
All right, where can the people find you and follow you?
Yes, they can find me on Instagram, just my full name, Emily Pribula. On Instagram. I'm not on TikTok.
Pribula.
You got it. Yeah, I'm not on TikTok. I scroll, but I don't really post. But
I've been trying, but it's just another.
Doing good. You're better than me.
Well, thank you so much for coming. This was a great episode. I learned so much.
I know. That was so fun.
First podcast. How do you feel? Was it as you thought it was?
No, honestly, I thought I was going to be over here like dripping sweat, so I feel pretty good.
I was done. All right. Well, love you. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye.
See ya.
See you next week.